Are we actually live on Facebook?
We are live. Yep.
Okay, great. Now I'm nervous. Before I get started, is there anybody in here that would like to share something about an experience or what you've experienced so far? Those of you that have been here around Evolv, maybe been taking Acemannan, does anybody like to just share something? Because I have something I'm going to share too, but I don't want to get ahead of anybody else that has something to share. Lisa?
Can I come up there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have some exciting news because my mother is type 2 diabetic, and she has been taking insulin dependent for about 15 years. And a year and a half they moved in, her and my father moved in with us, and we are now on day 7 of no insulin because the doctor, we've had to lower it because her blood sugars kept being low, and we kept lowering it and lowering it and lowering it, and now we're
What's
no
she
more
taking?
insulin.
What in particular?
She's taking it's the one at night, Levacquir.
What Evolv products?
Oh, she is taking Immun, Limitless, and the daily.
Has she had anything go on that she would consider detrimental since she started on the products?
No. Well, the only thing is I've had to watch her blood sugar because it has, so we take it daily. And about 6 months ago, actually, she was taken off of her blood pressure medication. So that's been our good news. And I was scared to take her off and checking it all the time, and it's been good.
Lisa, I know you personally have had a lot of good results too, so I know we'll share that more later, but there's a lot that's brought you down this road.
Yep.
Anybody else have something you'd like to say? First of all, I'm just honored to be here and just share a little bit of this with you. How many of you, this is the first chance you've had to come out to really hear about this? Don't be afraid, I'm not going to call on you. You can put your billfolds over here. No, I'm just kidding. To be upfront with you, I'm just a guy that didn't believe this, and so I don't know what brought you out here tonight. I've learned a lot about this in a way where I didn't intend to be up here sharing with people as much as I just wanted to know, when I first heard about it, were these people telling us the truth? Lisa, you mentioned the problems your mom had seen with diabetes, and that's where I came in. I'm not a diabetic, but my wife has been. And almost 20 years ago, I'm working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I liked what I was doing for a living. I didn't have much money, but Judy was dealing with diabetes, and she'd been through 2 kidney transplants and developed peripheral neuropathy, and she couldn't feel her feet, and she was losing her eyesight, and the list went on. And I don't mean to sound funny, but I was the guy that if you weren't wearing a white coat and a stethoscope, I wasn't listening, because that's just where I was at. And I understand, because we were scared. We had an ambulance at the house every few days, and so we were doing everything we were told. And the many great doctors that had helped my wife, when I first heard about this, my thought was, well, why don't they know about this? If this is so powerful, why isn't this on the news? And I'm not going to get into a lot of that tonight, but I've learned a lot over the years as to why that is. And I just invite people to come down this road and look into it a little bit for yourself before we actually, what I call, prejudge something. In 1947, Congress passed a law, and that law, and I quote, is to protect the ignorant, the credulous, and the unthinking. When it comes to their health, do not stop to analyze. And that's a quote that actually enacted the medical system that we have today when it comes to health. So, a lot of people don't think about that. When they have a health challenge, they go to a doctor, and I recommend that. That's what people should do. But today, there's a lot more things that you should be paying attention to. In some cases, they might keep you from, attending to that. So, there's many people already working with their doctors, and that's where we were at. So, I was very, very cautious. When I heard about this, they're talking about Immun, they're talking about sugar, and everything I was hearing was basically a no-no. In addition to the way I was hearing it, I thought that just could not be true. So that's okay. I just came a little bit slower. After about 5 months, the guy that shared it with me said, Jeff, I'm just tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of talking to you about it. Because I was being just kind of blunt, a little bit rude, actually. And he said, just go to Dallas for yourself. They're having a big conference down there, and you can meet some of the doctors. You can find out for yourself if this is true. And I was like, cool, that's what I'll do. And I told Judy, we're going to Dallas. And that's another story. We didn't have the money to go. But I felt like, well, for me anyway, when God moves in my life, I just feel like I got to move with him. And I can feel that. And so we went there with the intention probably we'd sleep in the truck and then drive home if we had to. But I was able to, of course, Friday night we didn't hear a lot that, I really attached to. But Saturday morning, I had the chance to get into a closed door session for licensed medical doctors only. And that's another story on how I got in there. But I had the honor to listen to a gentleman who at the time was one of the chief immunologists with the National Institutes of Health. And when that man got through talking about a little bit of what I'm going to share tonight, I believed him. And I left my job about 2 weeks later after 26 years of what I did for a living. I just dug in to study this, to see, first of all, how could this be true? If this is so powerful, why is it the way it is? Why is it coming at us this direction? And I spent the next 2 years helping people get started and watching their results. Before I get into it tonight, there's somebody I want to let you hear from for yourself. A gentleman who actually called me about a week or so ago if this Bluetooth will work. And I missed his call, so he left me a voicemail. Now I want to tell this gentleman's story. He was fighting with stage 4 cancer. They basically told him they'd done all he could do, and they'd scheduled him for more chemotherapy. And I'm not being, I'm just saying that that's what he was choosing, and he was looking at that and going down the road. So a friend of his said, you need to look at this. And he didn't have any money, but he did have a tractor. And Frank sold his tractor to get enough of this pure Acemannan to begin to start consuming it, probably at levels more than most people would that were considered healthy. And about 2 months later, and I even gave him a bottle, and several people were just there to help him. About 2 months later, I get this voicemail, so I hope this comes through okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jeff Allen. This is Frank Bartley. Give me a call whenever you get a chance. It is a great day to be cancer-free. Give me a call when you get time. Have a great day.
Wow.
Sorry. You had to have seen Frank when I met him. So how many of you get a chance to get an email like that or a voicemail like that? See, that's what we do for a living. It's okay if you don't believe in this in the beginning. I didn't either. But as you have a chance to peek behind the curtain and see what's going on here, I think you'll look at us a lot differently. So when I go through this tonight, there's a lot of things I can share with you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting into a lot of science, a lot of details. There's an awful lot behind it. For the most part, I'm going to skim across the surface. Because, most people are looking for answers when it comes to their health. And they're doing everything their great doctors are telling them to do, and they should, just like we were. But, doctors are realizing there's some things that we've got to do for ourselves. And we're being told to eat more, or eat better, and watch our food, and watch our diet. And I'm telling you, we've worked with everything from Olympic runners all the way down to couch potatoes. And they're experiencing the same kind of health problems. So, eating better is almost an impossibility today. I was actually watching the news the other day at noon, and of course it's an hour-long show, and they have the doctor on call, and then they have the other specialist. And they had a young girl, and I mean this respectfully, she was in her late 20s, she had graduated, and she was working as a dietitian. And she was talking about good diets for diabetics and things. And 100%, in my opinion, what she was sharing goes exactly against what we now know about good health. But see, that's what they're still teaching. And so when you really look at what's going on out here, if you want good health, it's hard to find. It's hard to find what I call the truth. Just like Virginia, you mentioned my license tag, 3 John 2. It's the will of our Father in heaven that we be in health, even as our soul prospers. But it goes on in verse 4, it says we should embrace the truth. And my question is, what's truth? And I'm not talking about supreme truth. To me, truth is things that give us the results we're looking for. And a lot of times today, we're spending an awful lot of money and not getting those results. And so something comes along and all of a sudden we see benefit and we think, wow. And so when you embrace truth, when you understand truth, that same chapter goes on to say in verse 8 that we should be fellow helpers of this truth. And that is the Hope Movement and what we're doing here today. So when you look at the Hope Movement and everything that we are really about, the Hope Movement is a social business platform. It's dedicated to providing the very best that science has to offer in high-grade, what we call Integrative Health products. And our goal is what we call buy one, nourish two. In other words, when you consume a product, an Integrative Health product by Evolv Health, you are in turn going to serve a child at the same time. I'm proud to say we are knocking at the door of 17 million servings in 3 years as of today. In fact, we might have gone over it because it was at 16.99 something, 9 something, just a few hours ago. So we're knocking at the door of feeding over, or nourishing, not feeding. We don't have a starvation issue. We have a nourishment, a malnourishment issue. Today, it's more prevalent in a civilized world when we look at the foods that are out here today. It takes over 50 peaches to give you what 2 did in the mid-50s. It takes 100 bowls of spinach to give you what 1 did in 1950. So when you look at consuming fruits and vegetables and things that we see out here in the marketplace, so to speak, even the very best to some degree, they are so depleted in nutrients, you literally would have to eat 4 or 5 times what you really could consume to get the nutrients your body is really craving. And that's what we call malnutrition. We see it with our children. Our children, 1 out of 4 in civilized worlds cannot hardly function due to their weight issues. And so, I'm 63 years old, and I just don't remember a lot of that when I was growing up. Today, it's just everywhere. We are the most out of shape society I've ever seen. In fact, we are number 2 now. Mexico just passed us in being the most obese in the world. And get this, not only are we second at being the most obese, out of 74 countries in the world, we rank dead last in good health. And if that doesn't startle people, I don't know what does. There's actually over 40 uncivilized countries in the world that actually have better health than what we have with all this money and with all this medicine. In the United States of America, we take over 50% of the world's pharmaceutical medications with less than 5% of the population. Our answer is not taking drugs. That does not fix the problems. In some cases, as reported by the Journal of the American Medical Association, 2 different times over the last 12 years, have reported that actually pharmaceutical drugs are, right now, the 4th leading cause of death. So, when we look at the kind of challenges we face when it comes to trying to get good health, I'll tell you, it's almost a calamity out here. So when you look at this, it's a little more than what we're even going to get into today. So when we talk about social business, I want you to kind of understand who we are a little bit more. I'm going to get into a lot of this. But, a social business is like Tom's shoes. When Blake Mikowski was in Argentina and he saw a bunch of children playing in the dirt and some going to school getting an education. And his comment was, how come all these kids aren't in school? And the reason was because they don't have shoes. In some areas of the world, you can't go to school if you don't have shoes. And I know most kids would rather play around without them. I get that. But he set up a movement where every time you buy a pair of his shoes, which are somewhat of a fad, they're not exactly the very best shoes on the market, but they're very well embraced because when you buy a pair, he'll give a pair. And, over the last number of years, he has actually provided over 60 million pairs of shoes to children to get them into school to start to get an education. You see that with Soapbox, Warby Parker, but the Hope Movement, powered by Evolv Health. Evolv Health is a for-profit company that supports a not-for-profit ministry. The not-for-profit ministry is called Man Relief Ministries. Right here on this picture is a gentleman by the name of President Vicente Fox and his wife Marta. They are the previous administration of Mexico who actually called upon our founder, Sam Castor, to begin to start with children in Mexico. So we're partnered with people all over the world through distribution partners, Convoy of Hope, Doctors Without Borders, and the list goes on. A lot of people ask me all the time, what about kids right here in the United States? Well, it took us many years even to get the approval to do it because there's so much red tape around children on feeding programs here in the U.S. But because of Convoy of Hope, who actually invited us to come into some of the impoverished areas to help to begin nourish kids right here in the United States. And get this, it took almost a year to get the label approved by the FDA. So, it does take a long time to do things here. But you get in some of these other countries, let me tell you, they are begging for help. And we have made a tremendous impact. To date, we've actually touched over, it's 96 orphanages in over 80 countries and over 250,000 children served every single day. Show me somebody that's doing that. So, that's just where we've begun. I say begun, we just began this movement 3 years ago. But the ministry's been around for almost 20 doing just what I said. And now we have attached a for-profit entity to provide you the very best product that science has to offer, and we guarantee that. And by doing so, it's supporting your body with 2 or 3 or 4 key products. You're going to help us with 1 or 2 or 3 children every single day. You need this, they need this. And so that's what makes us sustainable, is because of the value of what we give you, and that's the difference. So when you look at everything we've got going, what do people want? I'm not going to get into all that. Better health, mental clarity, energy, happy hormones, fat loss, stress relief, better sleep. I mean, yeah, I get all that. Who doesn't want every bit of that? You know, I think people are challenged in every single area, so I'm not going to elaborate on that. What we do is something we call Reboot. We actually biohack your body's chemistry to determine what particular factors support certain areas of human physiology, such as the communication system, the defense system, the central nervous system, the endocrine system. When you look at what science now knows and how you can support those areas, well, I'll tell you, some pretty dramatic things will begin to happen. So, let me move on. When we look at everything we're doing here, it'll give you just what you're looking for when you look at providing the body what it needs to provide you with good health. And yes, if you have a lot of challenges, you've been dealing with things and going to a doctor, work with your doctor, because over time he's going to see the difference if he's looking, and I believe most of them are. But the reality is, the goal is, in my opinion, to start going out and enjoying life and not having to go to the doctor all the time. So, there's a lot to be said. So from there, I want to get into the beginning here. And over 20 years ago, there was a discovery. It was actually done in 1981 about a particular molecule known as Acemannan. It was discovered in the aloe vera plant. Everybody knows about aloe vera. Grandma had one. It's mentioned 5 times in the Bible. It was even carried into battle before recorded history and as late as the times with Alexander the Great. So when you look at the history of aloe, it's well known. But in the late 70s, there was a lot of claims being made about that component, and we saw aloe vera products pop up everywhere. So a group of investors commissioned a pharmaceutical lab with 2 particular research pharmacologists and a PhD chemist to actually investigate aloe vera and find out what, if anything, was actually there. And I'm not going to get into the details, but about $160-some million later in 3 years, purely by accident, they discovered something called a polysaccharide. Poly means many, saccharide means sugar. Don't lose me, okay? I know I said sugar, but there's over 200 carbohydrates we know in nature. Most of them, the body converts them to energy. And most of what we see in our diet is not even pure sugar. It's just synthetic junk. So this is not that kind of sugar. These biologically active sugars are found at the very center of a cell and the very surrounding of a cell. And there's a lot of science backing that up. So when we look at that discovery of that polysaccharide, it was like a pearl necklace of sugars that was discovered in that aloe vera. They also knew that it had to be what they call stabilized or suspended. Because the minute you break a leaf off an aloe vera plant, there's an enzyme that is released that begins to digest that polysaccharide. That's why we kept one live by the stove, so we could break it off and put it on immediately. Because that's the only way it worked. And a few hours later, it of course dry up and it didn't work anymore. Thank you. So when you look at this discovery, not only was it an aha moment as to what it was, because they never expected a carbohydrate to have any role in the area of human physiology or immune function. Actually, in 1999, the first Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology was awarded by a German researcher for even alluding to how that structure at the surface of a cell that he called addresses or zip codes of molecules. We now know that address or those zip codes of molecules are in fact these polysaccharides that were discovered in aloe vera. And all this research has led up to, is now basically, and other research that came along with it, is now published in the Library of Congress. Now, we don't want to ever make claim that this particular component has any role in the treatments, the cures, or mitigations of cancers, or any kinds of disease. What we now know about Acemannan, it allows the body to do some incredible things. It doesn't work on anything, it supports everything. It allows the body to build structures so that you drop a brick on your toe, or you've got something going on you don't know about, it's how the body knows about it and carries out proper function to deal with it through the innate and adaptive immune function. So when you see that, in 2002, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences published an article, and then what they actually said, that's barely, not even a month ago, hardly, just about, but not a month ago, just a few weeks ago actually, that, and I quote, altering the surface sugars associated with cancer cells can control tumor growth. And what they did for the next 16 years is research on how they could make drugs to target the body to make it do that. And what they found in what was now published in November of 2018, does that sound pretty recent? Okay, they just published 16 years later that the ingestion, swallowing this component, will actually block the uptake of sugar into cancer cells and block tumor growth in cancer. 16 years later, they found out what we said 20 years ago. Swallow it, it works. And that's what we have found. Because only through the ingestion of it, the digestion of it, it's not actually digested, it's taken down into the intestinal tract, and there are ports in your diverticuli, your intestinal tract, that take it right out, send it to the liver for the production of these structures that allow your body to communicate at a cell level. It is the basis of human physiology. So, we've had this component because in 1981, when Dr. Rodriguez, that biochemist that worked in conjunction with the research pharmacologist that made the discovery, he found a way to stabilize that molecule so it could be consumed at a later date. He produced a product, and that product was called Manipul. It went into the veterinarian industry for the treatments of fibrosarcoma, cancers in dogs and cats, feline leukemia. It was used in the poultry industry for the treatment of something called Merrick's disease, a T-cell lymphoma. It eradicated it. So that's what they were seeing in the veterinarian and the poultry industry. Then they went in the mid-80s into the drug trials for human. And what they found is it had no toxicity, no drug interaction. So they classified it as a food component, not a drug. And that's where it went out of the FDA onto the shelf. Sat out there for over 9 years. Nobody knew what it was. And then in 1994, a man teamed up with that research pharmacologist and that chemist and began to create a word-of-mouth type of movement, telling people, look at this, try it, watch what happens, to create the clinical trials, the research, and the retrospective studies. Today that has exploded into the marketplace, billions of dollars of sales, and Sam Castor is the gentleman responsible for bringing that molecule to market. He is the founder and the chief executive officer and president of Evolv Health and the Hope Movement. And we are using that latest technology produced by Dr. Rodriguez, which is, 5.6 times more potent per gram than, compared to the original discovery at half of the price. He's found a very unique way to filter it with just pure water. No carbon, no charcoal, no solvents, no nothing. And so he has actually gifted that to the movement. Now, Sam paid millions of dollars for the first generation, the licensing to sell it. But Dr. Rodriguez, who has gifted this to the movement because we serve children with it. That gentleman right there in the center, right here is Sam Castor. There's President Fox of Mexico. That is Muhammad Yunus. Muhammad Yunus won the Nobel Prize for developing a social business that eradicated malnutrition in Bangladesh and impacted what they call poverty with what he started called the Grameen Bank. That's another story. So with us, that's a product called Immun, and that is the basis of human physiology. It supports the body's ability to communicate at the cell level. And I know I spend a lot of time on that, but let me tell you something. That product in itself is where we see those aha moments with people. And I know I'll stand still. So, when you look at, if somebody's been sharing with you, you got to come hear about this. You got to come look at this. You can find this on the market, and you'll pay outrageous prices for it. Even our closest competitor that has the generation close to what we have is about $18 more a month for the same amount. So when you look at the products with Evolv Health, they're not overpriced. You see, the products and the profit off of this, the sale of these products goes strictly to serving these children. It doesn't pad some multimillionaire's back pocket or stockholders. This is not a publicly traded company. This is a privately held social business movement, which is even being taught just a few miles or a mile or so here from this location I'm at in Warrensburg, Missouri, at the university to talk about how to connect for-profit companies with the passion and the heart of not-for-profit causes. Everything from drilling water wells to housing, homeless, you name it. We choose malnutrition, which is the biggest problem the world faces today. From there, I get into a product called Happy Hormones. It's actually, the name is called Balance. And I'm not going to get into a lot of details on balance. What we know about the endocrine system is, first of all, there's over 87 hormones. There's actually 87, 17 of which are sexual and reproductive. The other 70 control everything you do, your sweat patterns, your fight and flight mode, all of that. So as we age, we see a decrease in that. But, we know the dangers of, the HGH products on the market. Don't touch that kind of stuff. No matter what they claim, it's not good for the body. You don't take ingredients like that to actually give your body any hormonal activity. You give it what God designed it to have, called natural plant sterols. And the body is able to build the ingredients that allow the body to make hormones upon demand. And we call that our mad, sad, happy, glad pill, because for most people, 4 balance a day will change a lot. And I mean, from attitudes to how they feel, their sleep patterns, all kinds of stuff. Night sweats, adrenal fatigue, mood swings, high blood sugar levels. You see, a diabetic goes to an endocrinologist because they're riding the blood sugar roller coaster. So what we're seeing is when you start supporting your body with these levels of product, this level of technology, it's not that you shouldn't take your medication, it's that your needs for them begin to come down because your body starts to work again. You start supporting it with Acemannan, it's like somebody walking over and turning your light switch on. And people go, wow, I can't believe that's happening, and they start to see things take place. From there, you've got to begin to look at these other areas so you can get off of the roller coaster, get the body regenerating at a cell level correctly. So this is number 2. Number 3 is a product called Limitless. When we look at inflammation in the body, they call that the silent killer. And the reality is all forms of disease, the common ingredient or component is inflammation, from cardiovascular to all kinds of stuff. But what I want you to know about Limitless in particular is that Cornell University, in doing research on antioxidants, basically, green fruits and vegetables and bright red ones and orange and all that. What they found was that the flavonoid in the beet, which gives it that bright red color, was found to be in blood serum. Now we know about spinach, the dark green, but in blood serum, meaning people actually ate it, then they drew blood to determine what it was doing at the cell level, Cornell University proved that beets were the best. Because there's an ingredient in beets called a betalain. A betalain is the most potent form of antioxidant. It's referred to as nature's natural anti-inflammatory. But there's something else in the beet. It's called sugar. And over 70% of a beet by volume is sugar. So with technology through futureceuticals, they were able to, formulate a way to extract that pure betalain with 0 sugar. So when you consume a capsule of Limitless, you're getting the equivalency of over 500 cooked beets with just that pure betalain and no sugar. So that's something I want to just call your attention to. So there's a lot of attention going on about beets. And that product is powerful, especially when you look at cardiovascular. Your cardiovascular system is like a garden hose. And when you buy a brand new one, it's real soft and flexible. And a few years out in the yard with the sun on it, it gets all hard and brittle. So that's called atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries due to oxidative stress and the things that, our air that we breathe, everything. So over time, it's a natural occurring phenomenon. It's called aging, imagine that. And so with this oxidative stress and all, it just begins to build up over time. So when you take a high-level antioxidant, what it does is begin to allow your cardiovascular system to put that elasticity back in. It begins to be a little more softer, a little more pliable. And all of a sudden you see people plummeting on blood pressure, not in a bad way, but now their need for their medication begins to drop. And again, it's not a treatment, cure, mitigation. It's just letting your body go back to functioning normally. Because this is the way we used to eat hundreds of years ago. Today, we're not even close. And over 70% of our farmland is almost sterile today. So I got to tell you something, supplementing today is not an option. But I will tell you what is an option is reading the labels and looking at what you're putting in your body. And so when people look at our products, I think that's where we shine. Just turn them around and read the labels. The old expression is, if you can't pronounce it, don't swallow it. So that's where we stand ahead. From there, I get into a product called vitamins and minerals. I'm not going to bore you there. You know, God designed our body to have vitamins and minerals in a live food format, not through a chemical isolate called ascorbic acid. It takes 1,000 milligrams of ascorbic acid, which is a chemical isolate. It is not vitamin C. But your body can't biomark that. I mean, it just flushes about 75% of it. And it makes your tummy hurt when it's trying to do that, because all that enzymatic reaction, all that, you know, stuff that's going on, all that energy to try and biomark that chemical to see what it is. So whatever it can't do, it flushes. From there, it'll begin to biomark. And that's why they tell you, consume it with food. And so once the body is able to biomark, it'll flush another 75% because it doesn't know what it is. So you're going to end up with about 75 milligrams out of 1,000 of ascorbic acid, and your body had to work overtime to consume it. That's why in JAMA 2004 and 2007, they're recommending people get off of synthetic vitamins because they're increasing mortality rates in certain forms of cancer. And get this, they are causing birth defects. Again, if you can't pronounce it, don't swallow it. Daily, a product by Evolv, is a whole food format that has been re-fermented back into a food matrix. So when you consume 4 capsules a day of that, you're basically getting, you know, a full serving of fruits and vegetables. And your standardized amount of your vitamins, minerals, and trace elements. A lot of people look at it and they say, well, there's hardly any calcium in there. Your body gets calcium from plants, not rocks. So 1,000 milligrams of calcium might be do good to formulate in your kidneys and make you have some problems, but it's not going to build bones. Just like, you know, pasteurized dairy products will not do anything for your bones at all. Don't drink it. So I'm not going to get into, you know, synthetics, but they come from coal tar, petroleum, and I know petroleum is natural. So they all say natural on the label, but they're not from sources like a vitamin, like an orange. An orange is vitamin C. You see, and that's the difference. So from there, we look at the food plan. Just like that dietitian that I heard on the news talking about, you know, let's cut out the fats and get other things that are, you know, necessary in our diets. It's just the opposite. Because they used to tell us to cut out all the fats and start to limit your portions and add in a whole bunch of grains. You see, the grain is really not meant for human consumption. Now, I'm not talking about the bread like they had back in the times of Christ, but the breads we have today are not meant for human consumption to some degree. They convert to fat. And so when we look at the amounts of grains in our diet, we're even finding that the glyphins, which is known as Roundup, is in the seed. And so even though it might be organic during the growing stages, we're finding it in the breads and in the grains. And I'll tell you, it eats holes through the lamina propria, which is the lining of your intestinal tract. And that's one of the second reasons people go into the emergency room now. So breads are no longer a staple in our diet. In fact, they should be a very scarce thing in your diet if you have bread at all. In fact, I heard Dr. Oz say, if you're going to eat bread, eat white bread, because the bleaching of the bread is killing the Roundup. Get off the whole grains. It's actually worse for you. But that's not what they're teaching. But when you look at what we know today, just like synthetic vitamins causing birth defects, why is a OBGYN required by law to recommend them? We know they cause birth defects. We call Reboot. We have a food plan. Each bar here contains over 50% of your prebiotic fiber, all your vitamins, minerals, and trace elements. And there's 3 different flavors. We're about to bring out a 4th one. But that light bar, for most people, 1 or 2 times a day, most people love them. In fact, I'll eat easily 2 of the sweet and salty caramel just because I like them every day. And I'm not a food bar kind of guy. I just wasn't into food bars. But they are incredible. But when you read the labels and see what you're eating, that's another reason to really get to liking them. And the same thing with our shake, which is referred to as vegan shake friendly. Now, that's not a vegan shake. We didn't design it that way. But it has 0 fat, 0 sugar. It has the high fats, moderate proteins. It has no gluten, no GMO. And so when you actually read the label, it is gluten friendly. Or excuse me, it is vegan friendly because it has none of the bad stuff in it. So that's the Evolv shake. The difference in the shake and the bar is that the shake is almost just like the daily, the other vitamin I showed you. But it has everything in it and the live acid-activated enzymes. But in a freeze-dried formula, we also have encapsulated live bacteria. So you're supporting not only nutrition, but also the areas of digestion with live enzymes and bacteria that will be released in the gut. The bars don't have the bacteria because of the nature of the moist condition of the bar, it releases the bacteria in the bar and it kills the shelf life. So we can't get a good shelf life on the bars with the bacteria. So we have to freeze dry it, to suspend it, so it's released in you, not on the shelf. So that's the only difference in the bars. A lot of people will look at the ingredients on the back of the shake and they'll say, well, why does that have pantothenic acid? It doesn't. It's something else, but that's a misprint on that label, and they just didn't take it off on this batch. So that was a problem with the packager. From there, we get into what we call clean energy and fast recovery. The proprietary ingredient in this particular product is called Elevate ATP. A lot of people don't know a lot about what they call the adenosine triphosphates. That's what makes your body pliable at a cell level, okay? In fact, the final stage of death, rigor mortis, is when those adenosine triphosphates are completely depleted and your body hardens up. So in athletics, what it does is it allows the body to burn natural energy in the mitochondria inside the cell. You see, when you're taking sugar for energy, it's like tossing gunpowder into a fire and it goes pow, but it's over just like that. That's why people yo-yo on the sugar. But when you start to put like coal into a fire, it begins to generate heat and it gets hotter and hotter. And that's the way this ingredient works in the cell. It generates that level of energy. In fact, Elevate ATP was seen as the #1 sports performance ingredient of 2018. And it's in this product and the next one. This also has the electrolytes. For all these people out here on these energy drinks, I can tell you something. If you ever talk to a neurologist and understand what's going on out here, and then increased levels of aneurysms and problems with young people coming into the emergency room simply because of energy drinks. Don't drink that stuff. It is killing people, literally. So you've got to have an alternative to that. And that's what this is. It gives you all that aspect of an energy drink, but it is actually building clean energy in the body and beneficial, not harmful. We look at a product called Fix. It plays more in the area of reducing stress. You add it to water also, it tastes good, but it's designed to reduce the cortisol levels in the brain, your stress hormone, and actually get the body to balance out the leptin levels, which is your fat hormone. It was designed to get the body back into a little bit of a balance and build natural energy during fat loss. And that's what the original development of Fix was years ago. It also has that Elevate ATP in it. So when you look at getting started here, we just kind of package what I just showed you. And I'm going to bring this kind of down to an end here because I know we can go all night. But we can look at an integrative health approach. And that's just the first three, the Immun, the Balance, and the Limitless. Those three products come together. And just that pack right there will provide over 84 servings of whole food to children. But in addition, when you first get started, we can give you a $25 discount on that particular pack. From there, we look at the Fat Burner, which is just the food program along with the Fix. And then the sports performance, we package that for some people that are more just interested in the sports performance. If you look at Acemannan right here, this product Immun, and the Limitless, you see in the areas of inflammation, that helps you recover faster, longer, harder, quicker, and get back at things faster. Immun, however, with that pure Acemannan, one thing I didn't say about Immun is that Acemannan is found, in particular mannose, which is the largest sugar in that polysaccharide chain. But mannose is found in two areas in the world. One of them is aloe vera. The other one is in mother's breast milk. See, mother actually produces this during the gestational period. It's pumped through the umbilical cord to the fetus during the gestational period, like I mentioned, for the expression of all genetic activity. And during that 9 months of term, that baby is developed through that process. Once the baby is born, it is reversed back through the mammary glands. It is the active solids that are found in mother's breast milk that you cannot get in formulas. And so we know what happens to babies that are not breastfed. They have higher incidences of all kinds of health challenges throughout their life, not just when they're born. And so that's where science tied this together. Now, if God was going to put the perfect food for a newborn baby in mama, and one thing else about mama, when she gets pregnant, during that term, if she has an autoimmune dysfunction, and in some cases other health challenges, we'll see some of that go in remission because the body is producing high levels of this. And of course, we know about autoimmune, it's almost a breakdown in communication in the body. So we see some tremendous things here, and I think that ties it right back to something even more important. So they actually use that, believe it or not, in sports performance today, in the athletics and Olympics. In fact, if you do some Googling on mother's breast milk, you'll find it as the unsung hero in high-level performance, because it is all natural, does not show up in any drug testing, and they're not clinically and actually taking a supplement. So that's what they use in performance. So it's amazing. From there, we look at what we call total reboot, which is a little bit of everything I just showed you. It's got the Immun, the Limitless, and the balance. It's got, also the other factors of the fix. It's got the food program. So it allows a person to get started on this program in its entirety to begin to get your body off of sugar, on high fat, moderate proteins, and to start to get your body burning fat again. And that's the way our bodies are designed. And if you look around today, it's obvious most people, their bodies are just not doing that. So I've had people concerned with being really, really skinny, and they said, well, I don't want to lose fat. I don't want to lose weight. I want to put some weight on. Well, even in elderly people, what they're seeing with a Reboot program is beginning to put on lean muscle. And muscle weighs 7 times what fat does. So the whole goal is to get your body burning fat and building lean muscle. So I've seen people in moderate shape, in good shape basically, and they'll get started on a Reboot program, and over the course of a month or two, they actually see their weight go up a little bit, but they might drop a notch in their belt, because that's the shift from burning fat and building muscle. So that's what we do here. Most people start here, really. It's what we call a team builder. It gives you 3 of everything I just showed you, with the exception of the daily, because it's involved in the food program. It allows a person to really step up to the plate and get started on what we have to offer. And they usually end up picking and choosing what they like the most of, and then they continue to stay with that. We don't care how you get started, basically. We just want you to get started. And we want you to continue doing this, because we know what's going to happen to you. And we also know what you're going to do for us. Because, again, every single product. And our goal is, and our motto is kind of like Mother Teresa. If you can't serve 100, at least serve 1. Everybody needs these products. We just ask you to start somewhere. And don't quit.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks so much for, all the miles you drive to help people. From driving to Frank, I know you talked about Frank, and I know it all started with your wife, Judy, but here we have tonight a group of people miles away from you, and you bring your passion to help somebody else, and we just really appreciate that. And I personally appreciate all the years I've known you, and that you have dedicated yourself to this technology. And I get that it's because of what it did for Judy initially, and then what you heard from like Dr. Rob Ortman from the National Institutes of Health. I get all that came into the package, but you just hang on to truth, and that means so much to me. And I just want you to know how many lives you have blessed because you've continued to study this technology. You continue to be passionate about it. And I just really, really want you to know that everybody here and me included, I just appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I know we had to stop this video abruptly of the recording of you. And I did want to just take a minute to kind of tell people a little bit more about how they could get started, or at least could begin to get some more information, because, there are those researchers out there like you and like me. So if you follow this link, you'll see that there are a couple of ways that most people get started, even though there are other options. So you'll see a pack called the Total Reboot. And I personally like the Total Reboot. It's what, I came to this having been diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I had to really look at a lot of things. Some people are they have big health goals, you know, not just the next little step, and that would have been me. And so the Total Reboot, I love what it is put together to do. It will reset your metabolism. It will reactivate your immune system. It reboots your endocrine system. It heals your gut. And it provides the communication that all of our cells need to understand how to carry all of that on. This is a great place to begin. And when we put products together in a kit, you automatically save money. And so the Total Reboot is $324. You'll see that. And with the Total Reboot, it comes with a $25 gift code. You'll see it upon checkout. And I want you to know that because you have tuned into this and we feel like you have gotten value, we want to match that gift code for you. So initially you'll get the $25 off the kit as you check out, and then we will match it with another $25. And we feel like that would be a little bit extra value in there for you to, you know, to get started. Another way to get started, because some people really like to save more money and buy in bulk, like when you go to Sam's or when you go to Costco, we have the Team Builder Kit. The Team Builder Kit is available to customers and everybody. And it's because it's such a great value. And we're seeing a lot of people choose this. It's great for an individual because you've got more products to begin to work with. It's great for a family because now everybody can get better health to begin with. And so the Team Builder Kit, it comes with almost 3 of everything. Kit is $835. In that kit, there is over $1,300 worth of product. And that's what makes that bundle such a great deal. And we have a gift code for that also. It's called HOPE50, and you'll be able to apply that upon checkout. Then, like on the Total Reboot, we would like to match that to help you get started. So you'll get $50 upon checkout, and we will match that with another $50 after you checked out. Please do feel free to look at the other options, and I would like to say this before I encourage you to follow the link and at least get more information. And even share it with other people that you're thinking of, because we're talking about people who have serious health goals, and they don't always have a lot of time. And we've seen that like in Frank's case. So people with serious health challenges, either one of these kits is a great place to begin. I will say this, some of you may really want to focus extra on that Immun, that Acemannan molecule that Jeff talks about. And if you're not readily remembering what he's talking about with that, go back and watch that part of his video. Rewatch that part of the presentation, because that is the molecule that is so life-saving. It is what changes so many people's lives. And I just thank you. I hope you found some value tonight, and I just like to welcome you on board, and we would love to get to know you if you decide to get started and to begin to make some changes. Thank you so much.